Greetings and salutations, this is Imperator Vespasian, and I'm bringing you kind of the beginning of our Nurgle army. I'm going to leave the building up the Nurgle army later on. This is just the first kind of element of the Nurgle army, and that is zombies. A huge amount of zombies. They're made up of these zombies here, who are the zombies you can get from Mantic Games. Got quite a few of them. Then there is these zombies. These zombies are, well, they're all zombies, but these are wearing the uniform of the Steel Legion, because the Steel Legion is my Imperial Guard army, and I thought that Steel Legion zombies, because the Steel Legion were the ones who were overrun and turned into zombies. And lastly, we have the zombies from the various zombie boxes. There's sort of a female zombie box and a male zombie box, and then there's a resistance zombie box and all sorts of stuff from Warlord Games, who do their own Project Z game, which is a zombie game. And that's basically the figures that we're using. We're mixing them all together because they're all zombies. So you've got 40k civilian zombies, which is these guys. Some normal zombies have been zombies a long time, their clothing's fallen off. And some recently turned guard zombies. So that's the Imperial Guard troops here who've turned into zombies. That's the very quick overview, and I'll overlay some close-ups of them, and I'll put a proper thing on at the end. But first I want to talk about actual zombies in 40k, right? Zombies have actually been in 40k, believe it or not, since the very beginning, since 40k first started. In fact, I will show you the Rogue Trader, the amazing Rogue Trader, the first ever book published by Games Workshop for 40k. And here we have a small section there, zombies, just there. You also have warp entities just there, and the warp entities are what became demons in the end. In modern day 40k they were just called warp entities, and in many ways the Rogue Trader treated warp entities the way that, say, Rebute Gilman treats them, which is they're not demons, they're just entities who have taken the shape of a demon, basically. Rebute Gilman today, who is the Emperor in Bean, doesn't really believe in warp entities. He thinks that they're just a creature that lives in the warp. In the same way that the Emperor himself believed it, and the Emperor actually banned the knowledge of warp entities existing. He tried to make the Imperial truth. He tried to make everyone not know that the gods existed. To the point where, when it turned out people realised they did exist, it kind of helped the heresy along a little bit. But that's a whole another story. So the original zombies it says a zombie is essentially a mindless corpse of any race or creature animated by psychic powers. And there's various rules. You can only have zombies exist only within 24 inches of a psyker, and in the game zombies simply have they're animated by the warp, by psychic powers. So you have a wayward telepath, astropath or psyker who is animating corpses. That's originally how they turned out. So then we get to 7 different editions of 40k. Well, the first edition all the way through to the 7th edition, and now we are on the modern iteration of zombies. And the modern iteration of zombies are when I found the silly things, are basically more or less the equivalent of your poxwalker types. In the main book there's you can get them. Right, so Zombies now exist as more or less how we modernly think of zombies. They are not essentially... how to explain this? Okay, think of the warp. The warp is a separate plane of existence. It's as close to you as the clothes are to your skin. It's part of membrane space, that's the idea. And the warp is just above or below our material universe, the materium. And the immaterium is the place where dreams exist, or dreams can come to life. And so, if you think about a normal human, he's walking around, or an Eldari, or any race. They're walking around, and within the immaterium, the bit that makes them them, the bit that makes their soul, for want of a better word, is sort of hanging around. And it's like a candle burning in the immaterium. So every single human is a candle burning in the immaterium. However, the immaterium is sort of, think the size of the Atlantic, and you've got a single candle burning. That's how much a human brain affects the immaterium. But given that there is part of your brain, some sort of part of your consciousness, or part of your soul, or your psychic soul, exists within the immaterium, then when a human dies, there's nothing to stop the human coming back in a way, or a warp entity indeed coming back, and reusing the extant body. So in a way you've got the body, your soul has kind of left your body, but this sounds very religious, but it's not. Whatever makes you leaves your body, but something comes back from the warp. And that is what makes a zombie work in the 40k universe. There's something there. There are several iterations of the zombie plague. There's a mechanical plague, which may have, or may not have, been created accidentally by the Adeptus Mechanicus in order to save the Emperor. The Emperor's on the Golden Throne, they had to keep him alive, so they gave him this virus, which kept his body from actually dying. That could be where the zombie plague originated, one of them. There's also Nurgle's rot. Now, Nurgle's rot came from during the beginning of the Horus Heresy. Nurgle was monitoring a spacecraft in space called the Eisenstein, and he spotted these little lights going out, the traitor marines being killed, and the crew who were supporting the traitor marines being killed. And he decided to carry out a little experiment, and it's only a very, very, very tiny piece of the book. It's like 3 lines of the book. And he touches these corpses from the immaterium, and he switches them back on. And the plague enables the corpse, he gives them the plague, and the plague enables these corpses to come back to life. They don't really have much in the way of cognitive ability. They are simply zombies, and it only really affects the immediate crew, not the Space Marines. The Space Marines themselves, the Death Guard Space Marines, they come back as what we would now call plague bearers, plague warriors. Let me just... I should really know this straight off the top of my head. There we go. Your plague marines are there, and that is basically what happened to the Space Marines on board, the ones that were traitors. Now, they were already traitors, and so they were already sort of pro-chaos, but they weren't really worshippers of chaos. But what Grandfather Nurgle did is give them effectively immortality and allow them to come back to life. So the plague will actually keep their body running. So normally a zombie would fall apart. And what the plague does, it keeps them together, which is why they're covered in boils and icky bits and all sorts of stuff. And on plague marines, you could get little creatures trying to sew, like flies and things, trying to sew the body back together as it gets damaged. It's disgusting, but that's what happened on the Eisenstein. So you could really say that the first proper plague, zombie plague, began when Grandfather Nurgle experimented on the Eisenstein. Now, that experiment failed. The zombies were defeated. But that did give Nurgle a little idea in his head. He'd done a little experiment in the middle of nowhere with no other gods watching, and he thought, I've got something here. And later on, he was able to convert the entirety of the Death Guard into Plague Marines. And not just them, there were many other chapters became Plague Troops as well. And since then, in the Abyssal Crusades, 30 chapters fell. And, well, fell to chaos, effectively. And of the 30 chapters, 11 of them, or 12, I think 11 of them became Plague Bearers. So the majority of the traitor Marines became actual Plague Troops. So, you know, Grandfather Nurgle does have quite considerable forces at his disposal. So, back to zombies in the 40k universe. These are normal zombies. Now, if you're going to have Space Marines turn into zombies, they're going to turn into Plague Marines. But that's if they're affected directly by Nurgle. Now, the Nurgle Plague is not necessarily Nurgle itself. There is the mechanical plague, which I've already mentioned. There is also the idea that you can have a disease, which is Nurgle's rot, which is going around, or the pox, which is going around the Imperium. People have been infected by it, and they are effectively becoming zombies. Now, they are dead. They are not, it's not like one of the films where they're not actually dead, they've got the rage virus or whatever. They are dead, but they're kept reanimated by the powers of the warp. So there's something in the warp that is keeping their brains going. Remember I said about the candle. So when someone dies, when one of these troopers either gets killed by a soldier of Nurgle, something of Nurgle kills them, these guys here. Once this trooper gets killed in combat with a Nurgle Marine, then he would come back as a zombie. I think that's like 6th edition that used to happen. So that happens, but now you've got Nurgle's rot, and what that is a plague. So if you get ill from the plague, you get worse and worse, more and more ill, to the point where you die. And when you die, that little candle that you have, the part of you that is your soul, for want of a better word, in the warp, manages to cross into the warp but come back. So, but the bit that comes back isn't really you. Because you as a zombie, you would still be you. You would be alive like a Plague Marine. A Plague Marine does not have to walk around doing Plague Marine stuff. There's nothing to stop a Plague Marine wandering off and doing his own thing. In fact, a few have done in the past. They become Black Shields, and then they can even rejoin the Imperium if they can find a Space Marine chapter willing to accept them. As with all traitor Marines. So you have this plague which has swept various parts of the Empire. It infects people, the people die and become what we call zombies. So how do zombies play in the game? Well, they don't have a weapon. They have effectively a bite, which is all they have. This is really an ability. The bite is to try and infect other people. That's why they bite. It's not. It may be down to the fact that they have sort of. We are descended from animals that ran through the woods and bit things. So maybe it's regressed humans to such a level where biting is. They're back to the level of dogs now. So their only weapon is a bite. Now I have a few troops carrying weapons. In fact, no, they're not painted. They're not here. They're not been based up yet. I have a few troops carrying stubbers and stuff who are Imperial civilians who are carrying weapons. But I haven't painted them up. I've painted them up. I haven't based them yet. But all they're doing is carrying the weapon. At best, they might use it as a club to hit you with, like a stubber or something. But it's not a weapon. That guy's using a severed hand, just there. He's got a severed hand he's holding, and he's going to try and hit someone with that. And there's a guy here holding a chain, so he can use that as a weapon technically. But in the big world, in the big game, they're not doing that. They're actually in close combat, and they're trying to bite their enemy, just like a traditional zombie. Poxwalkers are a bit different. Poxwalkers do have the same abilities, but they do carry some sort of close combat weapon. Usually it's an improvised weapon, melee combat, the strength as the user does damage 1. So it's effectively, it doesn't really mean anything, they do have a weapon, and it's just an improvised weapon. So the stats for a plague zombie are 4 inches movement, 5+ weapon skill, which is rubbish because they're zombies, they're not that good. They have strength of 3, which is the standard human because these are humans. If it's a creature, well, so something like an orc, not that you can actually affect orcs with the zombie virus, but if you could affect an orc, then the orc's strength would be 4 because that's the strength of an orc. Then we go to toughness. Now, toughness of any creature with a zombie is the standard toughness. However, they have Nurgle's Rot, and that gives you the disgustingly resilient special skill. And the disgustingly resilient skill gives a +1 to your toughness. So, Plague Marines have a toughness of 5. That's really tough. Normal Marine has 4, a Plague Marine has 5. That makes them some of the toughest regular infantry in the game. And given that your Marines are your regular infantry, that means you're very tough. So given that these are humans, these are base humans, all of these guys here, their toughness will be 4 because you get +1 for Nurgle's Rot. They only have 1 wound. They have a leadership of 4 and a save of 7+. Basically, forget it, you ain't saving anything, including cover saves. However, the zombies don't use cover. So even if there is a bit of cover, they're not going to duck behind it, they're just going to walk straight through it, so they can't use cover. However, they do get 2 attacks. Now this may seem quite extreme, if you think about it, because these are supposed to be mindless zombies, and yet they get 2 attacks. The average guardsman gets 1 attack, and he's got a bayonet and a rifle, and if he's lucky a las pistol, but he doesn't get an additional attack. Zombies get 2. The reason they get 2 attacks is this is all they do. They will do anything to get hold of you. They will jump on you, they will grab any part of your body they can, they'll just try and grasp hold of you. They're zombies. You've seen zombies in films, they will try and grab you, they will grab your belt, they will grab anything, they will try and bite any part of your body, they will try and scratch you, they're zombies. And so they get the 2 attacks. This actually means even though they're rubbish, they've got strength 3, which is rubbish, very hard to wound anyone, and apart from Imperial Guard obviously, but any rest of your troops, it's going to be a lot harder to harm you, especially given that you get a saving roll and they don't minus from your saving roll, so your armor's pretty good. They do get the 2 attacks, so they get 2 chances to attack you instead of 1. So that makes them way more dangerous. Zombies come in units of 10. Obviously they probably don't, but just for game terms when you're buying an army. They come in units of 10 and they have a power rating of 4. That's using the power rating scale, not the, I think they're worth, I think it's 70 points, something like that. So that does actually make them relatively expensive, but for 10 figures with 2 attacks each, it kind of helps, it kind of makes sense. What makes them so expensive is the addition of Nurgle's Rot. Nurgle's Rot increases the power level or the points that you spend on your figure. Yeah, that's it. Your Poxwalker power levels of 3. So, point-wise, let's get points. Right, your Poxwalkers, points per model, so it's 60 points. It would put you back to get some Poxwalkers, and it would put you back, so 70 points to get Plague Marines. To get zombies. So your Poxwalkers are cheaper. Your zombies are slightly more expensive. I don't know really why. They get disgusting resilient as well. Right, so they get disgusting resilient, which gives them a. If the model takes a wound on a fight, takes any wound, you roll a die. Well, first of all, it pluses 1 to your toughness. Secondly, if you get any wound to your body, you roll a 5+ and it doesn't count. And this is an unmodified save. So you could be hit by any weapon, more or less, apart from a mortal wound weapon. So you get hit by more or less any weapon, a plasma rifle, plasma gun, las gun, bolter, heavy bolter, and it does horrific damage to you, but you're a zombie. So you may blow the zombie's arm off, he will get an injury that is fatal. In any other circumstance, a living creature, it would be a fatal wound and the creature would die. He gets a chance to save it on a 5+ unmodified save. Because whereas you may blow out the lungs of the creature, you hit it in the chest, blow its lungs out, it doesn't actually bother it because it's not using its lungs. So it's a lot harder to kill. So not only has it got a +1 toughness, it's also got the 5+ save on top. Right. So that could be annoying. So you've got 10 figures with a 5+ invulnerability save. That's dangerous. So really, if you want to do proper damage to them, you really want to be going in with weapons that negate that sort of save, and that would be anything that causes mortal wounds. So running them over would be a good idea. Diseased Horde, if 10 or more models, over 10 models in a unit, you get +1 to your hit rolls. Right, their weapon skill is 5. If you have a unit of 20 zombies instead of 10, then there are way more grasping hands and way more weight behind all the zombies pushing forwards. That means that you get yourself a +1 to your hit rolls, because there's way more people crowding in together, and zombies will crawl over each other, so you have a wall of grasping hands and a wall of teeth wanting to bite you. That gives you a +1 to your chances of being hit by a zombie. So your zombie unit of 10, no, don't worry about it. There's not enough zombies to worry about. A zombie unit of 20 figures, then you're in trouble. Because then they get 2 attacks with a 4+ weapon skill. That's a 50-50 chance of attacking you, of hitting you with 2 dice per model. That's 40 dice with a 50% chance of getting hits. That's not going to be good. That's not going to be good at all. They're also mindless. This is another interesting thing. They're mindless because they're dead. They know no fear. They have no concept of what they're doing. They're not sentient, and so they don't care how many of their number die. In fact, the only benefit to you cutting down the numbers is to take away that +1 weapon skill. You need to get them under 10. Get them to 10 or under, and you're fine. That's what you need to do. Poxwalkers have the same rule, by the way. So if you've got 10 or more Poxwalkers, sorry, you've got 11 or more Poxwalkers, you get that extra bonus of hit. Plague. Any person killed in combat adds a zombie to the horde. Now this is probably the best rule for the zombies and the worst rule for you. Because even though you are killing them, every time one of your men go down, you add a zombie that just got killed by your heavy bolter fire, he gets replaced at the back, like that. So every one of your soldiers that go down, 1 zombie is added to the rear. You got a 10-man unit, you've been attacked by 20 zombies. You lose your 10 men, you could have 30 zombies coming at the next unit. This is insidious the way that works. Poxwalkers don't get that advantage. I like Poxwalkers. If it was up to me when I originally started planning this army, I was kind of thinking of a huge horde of Poxwalkers, just buying multiple Poxwalker boxes. But then when I looked into the zombie rules and zombies, I thought, you know what? Why not do a zombie horde? And I'll fill it in with Poxwalkers later. So we actually started with zombies because we have a campaign including zombies coming up. And that's what we're basing that campaign on. So we have more or less covered everything, really. Zombies, well, they're pretty kitsch. they're a horror movie enemy. They're fully embedded in popular culture, certainly way more now than they were when Games Workshop first wrote that little paragraph in The Great Rogue Trader. And given that at the moment the books have just run through the Plague War, I'm currently rereading the Plague War at the moment. The Plague War. It's actually the Plague War book. There's a series of books that all link together. But I'm rereading the Plague War at the moment, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. And I think it will be interesting doing a campaign with zombies. And our basic idea is to have the main protagonist, Nurgle, being entirely zombie based. So we'll see how the 40k universe deals with a 1980s horror film setting. I think that's going to be a good one. As I should mention just before I go, these figures, which I mentioned earlier, they're figures that I used to make the guard out of. These actually English Civil War. These are all spare figures from our English Civil War project, and I decided to put them together and use for this. These are all the spare figures that I had left over, because I used all the bits from the others to build up our Civil War stuff, and these are sort of errant pikemen. I wasn't using any pikemen in our game because it's not piped, it's not an open field battle. So these are all the errant pikemen, which is why they all have the same poses. You've got two poses for all of them because they're all soldiers that normally carry pike. So that explains that. You don't have to go out and get an English Civil War box just to do that with, but given that I was using the Imperial Guard regiment I was using has almost a passable same uniform, I thought that it might be good. The only difference between the two figures is these figures have a very short jacket. The jacket's very short, whereas the Steel Legion have a very long, deep jacket. So it's not really a problem. They're past. They're zombies. Who cares? So that's about it. I have spent a huge amount of time talking about 40k zombies, but I hope you've learnt a bit from the lore. There's been several zombie plagues, and why not do a campaign based on it? So yeah, there we go. I skipped the history of the individual plagues because I realised I was running into a huge amount of time. So maybe that's a video for later, running through each of the individual zombie plagues that's affected the Empire. There's been a few, and they've been pretty bad, including a world that was entirely overrun by zombies, and some that weren't. So that's it. That's pretty much the end of the video. I would like you to thank you for your time if you've actually hung on till the end of the video, and well, leave any comments you've got about zombies in the bottom, and well, let me know what you think. Thank you very much for watching. This has been Imperator Vespasian. Goodbye.